How many snaps did they run in the 14 personnel?
That's only for us.
100% of the snaps.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome into 14P Fantasy. I am your host, Justin Wright. Today, we are talking quick Amari Cooper. What is his new dynasty value now that he is in Cleveland? You know, I'm recording this night one of free agency. Jarvis Landry is gone. What does all of this mean for Amari Cooper? Where should he be valued? And even a little bit of redraft talk. You know, is he actually going to end up being a value in redraft? Which I think the short answer is yes. But before we get into it, guys, if you like what we're doing here, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Got questions, comments, drop them below. Also, check out the Patreon page. We got new post-combine rookie rankings up over on there. We'll have new dynasty rankings post, early free agency, either end of this week, early next. So check that out. Patreon.com/14P Fantasy if you're so inclined to do so. All right. Amari Cooper, if you have not heard, he was traded for a absurdly low package. It was Amari Cooper, basically for a fifth-round pick. That's the gist of the deal. Amari Cooper now steps into a Cleveland team that is obviously led by Baker Mayfield. There's no other real wide receiver, I think, on the roster outside of DPJ, Donovan Peoples-Jones, if you're not familiar. So what do you expect from Amari? I mean, realistically, this situation will not stay the same. Whether they add a weapon in free agency, which is already getting kind of thin, or they bring in a rookie early on, which I think is the most likely avenue, Amari Cooper is going to be the one here. And if you look back to what we saw last season, Amari Cooper was not spectacular. He was fine. 68 catches, 865 yards, 8 touchdowns. And again, obviously missing some time. So the question is, what does this mean with Baker? Because obviously Baker Mayfield is not Dak Prescott. It is an immediate downgrade. The other concern is Amari actually going to warrant a huge number of targets? And if you look across his career, even when he has been the clear de facto number one, he really doesn't see a huge target share. It's just not the type of player he is. Now, Baker may choose to hyper-target him, and that's a possibility. But I think the most realistic outcome is 120 to 130 targets. He's not going to be a volume hog, even in this offense, that's lacking weapons. And 120 to 130 targets from Baker Mayfield does not scream, top 15 wide receiver on the season. It might not even equal top 20. Realistically, Amari Cooper, for redraft purposes, is going to be a top 30 wide receiver with top 24 upside. That's what you're looking at. So in Dynasty, for a guy that, all jokes aside of him being, he's 23 years old and that's their team, and because he seems like he's never gotten older. Amari Cooper, again, being 28 years old, probably should not be inside your top 24 wide receivers for Dynasty. He's tied to Baker Mayfield for at least a year. Who knows what happens after the season? Maybe Baker doesn't get re-signed, and then he enters kind of maybe QB purgatory. So he's an aging receiver with a questionable quarterback situation, and he's not going to be a volume hog, or at least I don't project him to be. He shouldn't be. So Amari Cooper, you're looking at a top 30 dynasty wide receiver. Again, if you're a contending team, maybe you bump him up a little bit higher because we know the talent's there. But volume-wise, it's not ideal. The situation is far from ideal. It is worse than his last situation, obviously, in Dallas. I think, if you're a contending team, send out an offer. You can probably get him for a second-round pick maybe, or a high second. But I wouldn't be paying much more than that. If I'm not contending, I'm trying to sell. I'm probably selling at a discount. I think that's the smart thing to do. I don't see it getting a lot better unless he gets traded again or cut next offseason. And then who knows, it's completely up in the air. All right, guys, that's all we have for you. Short and sweet. Again, if you like what we're doing here, subscribe to the channel, drop questions, comments, Amari Cooper questions, drop them below. Also, the Patreon page, patreon.com/14P Fantasy. The link is in the bio. All right, guys, as always, thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.
How many snaps did they run in the 14 personnel?
That's only for us.
100% of the snaps.